Welcome to another edition of the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin. In this episode, we are going to talk about why being reactive in the trucking industry costs millions of dollars every year. We're also going to discuss why it's not too early to start planning for winter. And finally, we're going to teach you how to make your own cup holders if you have an older truck that doesn't have cup holders. We'll also talk about why it's important to look to the market for testimonials on products and not just believe everything you hear. But you got to watch to figure out what we're talking about with those cup holders. All right, let's get started. Being reactive costs the trucking industry millions of dollars every year. Once something breaks down, that's when the costs really start to skyrocket. We all know that downtime is far more expensive, especially unplanned downtime, and roadside emergency is far more expensive than doing proactive maintenance and planned maintenance in the shop in a controlled environment. Now, most people understand this when you're talking about commercial fleets or you're talking about even owner-operators. If you operate a commercial truck or trailer, you've been through the experience before and you know how true this is. Although, let's face it, we all could use a little bit more education and reminders on that on an ongoing basis. But did you know that we see this kind of situation unfold in heavy-duty parts manufacturers, distributors, and parts and service companies all the time at the Heavy Duty Consulting Corporation when we're working with our clients? What do I mean by that? Well, for example, just like if you were to ignore needed maintenance or upgrades on your commercial truck or trailer, you know that that would lead eventually to a catastrophic failure and be very costly. But on the part side of the business, when you're manufacturing or you're running a distribution company or you're doing parts and service, if you ignore the quote unquote maintenance or upgrades or retrofits needed to keep your business moving forward and to stay kind of up to and exceed even the expectations of your customers and the changing landscape of the market, if you don't do that, your company will start to fall behind. And just like a commercial truck or trailer, if you ignore it long enough, it'll lead to a catastrophic failure. Now, some examples of this are, we've seen clients with ERPs, so that's the computer software they use for accounting and for keeping track of inventory, things like that are 30 years old. They're not cloud-based, they're completely antiquated, and the amount of time, effort, and money spent on workarounds to try to make that system work now in 2024 far exceeds the cost it would have cost 10 or 15 years ago to just invest and update the system, and to continue to update the system and keep up to date with whatever the new technology is. Another example is, you see this with marketing. Companies with websites that haven't been updated since 2012. They are so far out of date that they are doing nothing for the business. They're not generating any leads. And really, actually, they're hurting the business because people who find the website go, what is this? Like, I haven't seen a website like this in over a decade, and actually does more damage than if they didn't even have a website at all. Another example is with people. Now, a lot of times we see companies where they know they've needed to invest in people. They can do the math, and their most senior people are approaching retirement age, and they just haven't invested in updating their recruiting tactics, updating their training investment, and really making sure that their business has a strong succession plan. We see these situations all the time at the Heavy Duty Consulting Corporation, and it's very much like it is with the commercial truck side of the business. If you're not planning for the seasons that are about to come, you're going to be reactive. And when you're reactive, it always costs more. At the Heavy Duty Consulting Corporation, HDC for short, at HDC, we work with our clients all the time to help them to move from that reactive position to get into that proactive position. We help them to make the investments to plan, budget, and execute on updating their company, to get them to a place where they are going to be competitive and they are not going to, slowly be approaching a catastrophic failure. If this is something that interests you, make sure you reach out to us. You can go to heavydutypartsreport.com, click the consulting button in the top menu. You can now text us if you're listening on a podcast player of your choice by just going to the show notes in the pod player and hitting that text button. And you can always find me on LinkedIn. In my profile, there's a book an appointment link. There's many ways to get a hold of us. Whatever one's convenient for you, those are the top 3. Use them, get a hold of us. We'd love to work with you and talk about your situation. Now, if you are on the part side of the business where you're selling parts, if you're on the repair side of the business where you're installing those parts and you're responsible for maintaining commercial equipment, the interview that we have set up for this episode should be of interest to you. But interestingly enough, we're going to talk about a product that is typically used in the wintertime, despite the fact that it is July and it's probably 90 degrees outside. Why are we doing that today? Well, because we are trying to set the lead of not being reactive. So we're trying to help our audience be proactive, put a plan in place now so that when winter comes, they're not hit with unexpected downtime. They're not caught, by surprise with a breakdown, but they've done the things necessary to get their fleet ready for the coming winter season. We're going to take a quick break. Stick around, and after the break, we're going to have our interview. Are you deferring maintenance because of filter cost or availability? Or worse yet, are you trading down to no-name filters to try to save a few bucks? Either way, you're rolling the dice. The good news, there's a new premium filter option for fleets, Hanks Filtration. If you're responsible for a fleet, you won't believe how much using Hanks filters will save you. But you've got to go to heavydutypartsreport.com/Hanks to find out more. That's heavydutypartsreport.com/HENGST. Head there now. At Diesel Laptops, they go way beyond diagnostic tools. They are your complete shop efficiency partner. From diesel technician training to complete repair information, parts lookup tools, and robust technical support, they are there to support you every step of the way. Learn more and download your free starter pack today by visiting diesellaptops.com. That's diesellaptops.com. HDA Truck Pride is the heart of the independent parts and service channel. They have 750 parts stores and 450 service centers conveniently located across the US and Canada. Visit heavydutypartsreport.com/HDA Truck Pride today to find a location near you. Again, that's heavydutypartsreport.com/HDA Truck Pride, and let the heart of the independent service channel take care of your commercial equipment. We're back for our break, and now it is time for our interview with Webasto, where we are going to find out why you should start planning for winter in July. My guest today is Bill Fortney. He is the Western Regional Sales Manager at Webasto. Bill Fortney is someone who has been in the industry for a lot of years. He lives in the Montana area, and he's worked as a diesel mechanic, and he has extensive experience in the trucking industry. So we're very happy to have him join us today. Bill, welcome to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. Very happy to have you here, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Super excited to speak with you today.
So today, I wanted to start our conversation by discussing some of the trends you're seeing. And I think your perspective is going to be interesting related to the product categories that you sell now because of your background as a diesel mechanic. So what are you seeing in the industry? What trends are you seeing related to the products that you sell?
It seems to be ever evolving, right? We see regulation. The trucking industry is faced with regulations yearly. We also are seeing the rise and fall of fuel costs, the rise and fall of freight rates. So I would say trend-wise, rates are down right now, which affects spending. Fuel is somewhat stable, but people right now are a little nervous about the economy. So they tend to be holding a little bit tighter to their money right now. That's kind of what we're seeing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So when you're now in the field talking to people, first of all, maybe just give us a little bit of an overview of some of the products that you're selling that Webasto provides the trucking industry.
Sure. So I think we're best known for our heating solutions. We have a full line of fuel-operated heaters, both diesel and petrol, and a few different variations. So we have cabin heaters, which a lot of the Class 8 trucks will have a cabin heater nowadays. We also have coolant heaters, which I think is a less talked about product, honestly. So we have coolant heaters that they operate off of the fuel of the vehicle, and they basically circulate coolant through the engine, and they keep the engine warm instead of idling during downtime. As we talk about kind of evolving products and things like that, we've also dipped our toes into the EV market as well. So we have a line of high voltage heaters now that are available for EVs. We have a full line of batteries as well for EVs. So it's kind of ever evolving. We're trying to stay ahead of the curve in the trends and such, and just stay relevant, really.
There's so many ways for someone who operates commercial trucks and trailers to look at their overall costs. And to your point, with the current economic climate in the trucking industry, rates are still not great. There's a lot of volatility. I talked to a lot of people at every level of the supply chain. We were just at one of our clients who's a repair shop, and they're saying that they're having 1 month where they're busy, they can hardly keep up, in the next month where it's kind of flat. And so that just kind of tells you what's going on with their customers who are fleets. So when you sit down with a customer and you want to talk to them about how to help the end users, the owner operators, the fleets, even the repair shops who provide service and install parts on your behalf, like, walk me through that business development conversation you have on lowering their total cost of operation.
It's been tough, right? I've been selling product for years and years, and when you go into a customer, especially a cold call, right, and you're discussing your products, the first thing is always price. Well, how much is it going to cost? Okay, well, we can go down that road. We're very competitively priced, but I like to divert the conversation, once I do talk about price point, to the savings aspect. Well, yes, our product is X amount of dollars up front. However, the payoff period is also very short. If you look at idling, if you idle a truck, I think the standard number everyone uses is 1 gallon to 1.3 gallons per hour to idle a truck. To operate one of our cabin heaters, you can operate our heater for a 24-hour period and not even match an hour of what you would do idling the truck. So it's multiple things. It's wear and tear on the engine. We're reducing wear and tear on the engine. That is a big thing that people don't think about. We're reducing wear and tear on DPF filters, which just as well as I do how expensive it is to not just replace, but also to service a DPF filter system. And then the fuel, right? So it's kind of a multi-level conversation of savings, but you put all those pennies together and they match dollars for sure. So
yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I think also it's really important for people to look at the whole picture. And I really feel for people who are operating commercial equipment. They have so many different suppliers where they have to consider which products are we going to spec. They also have all these dashboards with telematic information and data like that they've never had before. And it's getting more and more complex. The actual equipment is becoming so complex. The challenges of running a commercial fleet right today are just higher and more complicated than they've ever been. So when you walk in and you talk to these customers, how do you simplify things for them? How do you explain to them what they should do? And what I was curious to know about is, are a lot of your products already installed on the vehicle's OEM and then they're just buying replacement? Or do you also talk to fleets about retrofitting to try to get a hold of some of those savings?
Sure. Yeah, it's certainly a good mix of both. We do have OEM applications. We work with all the OEMs. So it's basically kind of a point and click for the dealer that's speccing the truck, right? They can spec a heater or not. They can spec a bunk heater, a coolant heater, all those things. For me, supporting those OEMs is huge. We have to be constant. We have to be in contact with them. We have to be providing support with them. But yeah, on the backside, for us, it is finding those fleets that are not using our solution and kind of targeting them and saying like, hey, this is where we can save you. This is what we can do to your business growth. We don't just want to sell a widget. That's not our goal. Like, we want to partner with our customers. We want to find solutions that are going to help and be lasting solutions, not just a one-time kind of a one and done thing.
Right. So in that situation where you're looking to help a fleet make a good decision where they're going to maybe do some retrofitting, they're going to add some of your products, beyond just the savings that you talked about already, what are some of the other things that maybe a person wouldn't think of that contribute to the overall like benefit to the fleet? Like I'm thinking in the way of like how the driver is impacted, not just the equipment.
Sure. Yeah. Driver retention is huge, right? Like I think it costs a trucking outfit up to $5,000 between the recruiting process, the expense of bringing them to their facility to train, and then to have them training for a week. So just the little creature comforts that you can offer certainly do help with driver retention. Driver happiness is big. I in a past life was a dispatcher and have worked with drivers, and it's a rough life. They have to deal with traffic. They have to deal with getting into a fuel stop. They have to deal with finding parking, like all these things that are thrown at them that the general public doesn't really think about. Just providing one little creature comfort could make a huge difference for their drivers. And certainly like that's what we are, think where I live here in Montana during the wintertime, we're zero, or, we don't technically drop below zero, thankfully, very often, but to be able to park the truck, to have a heater to keep them warm instead of having to idle the truck. It's a big package for them, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I live in the Great White North. We do get below zero, so
Yes,
it gets pretty cold here. Okay, so beyond the heater, I was interested to learn more about the way that you were talking about the coolant and the heater there. Can you walk me through that again and go into some detail? I'd really like to understand that better. Where are they installed? Like where in the system are they put? Is it before the rad, after the rad? Like how does that work?
So it typically is going to tie in with your heater core system on your truck.
Okay.
So it's going to be after. So basically it's just that it's a pump. It's a secondary pump that's going to circulate coolant through the heating system. And much like our air heaters, it just has a chamber that atomizes the fuel. It heats up and we extract the heat like a heat exchanger off of that. And we're just continually circulating through the engine. We also heat hydraulic systems as well, right? Hydraulic tanks, fluid tanks, things like that. We have a paint striping company that we work with in Billings that uses our product to keep their paint warm, while they're spraying the epoxy, things like that.
Right. So in the truck, once when you're keeping that engine warmer, is that helping with hard starts and cold starts like that?
Absolutely. So go back to the DPF conversation. I was around before, during, and now after the DPF craze. So, we learned early on, we had a lot of failures early on, that 07, 08 year range where we were all clueless. We knew kind of how it worked, and we knew kind of what the components were and what the insides of it look like and what it shouldn't look like when you pull one apart. But for us, the opacity level, when you start a cold diesel, the opacity level is huge. Diesels nowadays with the EGR systems, they're made to run hot. That is their most efficient target fuel burn. That's when they're the cleanest. It's kind of funny. It's like they clean it up on the back end with the DPF filter, but that's the way we have. That's just regulation. So what we do is, yes, by keeping the engine warm when it's shut off, we're reducing the opacity of the original startup. So basically, when you're starting your engine after running our heater, you're not going to get that big soot load on your DOC or your DPF filter, which causes face plugging, which in turn leads to more and more problems down the road. Very costly problems down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're out working with distributors and you're looking at supporting end users, like what's an ideal customer for your company? Just walk me through the profile.
That's kind of the neat thing about here is I've been focused on the trucking industry for the last 20 years. Before trucking, I was a diesel mechanic in the Coast Guard for 7 years. So I've done marine. So we have a huge marine division. Class 8 trucks is large. That's the biggest target for us. But also we have construction. I'm responsible for Alaska, and I've got people in Alaska using heaters on everything from excavators to bulldoze, you name it. Our equipment is out there. But also another market for us is the RV market, these small camper vans, the Sprinter vans that people are building now and using those. And, that's a large market for us as well that we've been successful with providing heating solutions for.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. So when you are, you're out there and you find these different fleets, walk me through again, kind of like the problems that they might be having that alert you to say, aha, I have a solution. Like, how does those problems manifest again? I just want to better understand that.
Well, I mean, it's there's a lot of discovery that goes into it. The way we kind of target, we'll go work certain areas. I live in Montana, which is somewhat remote, so if I'm going to Portland, Oregon, I'm going to do my research. I'm going to make some calls ahead of time and set up appointments and try to get, just mine information out of these people. Are you currently using our product? If you are, great. How is that helping you? If I do find out that they are using our product, it's like, how can we support you better? Then I try to take those little tidbits that I get from those customers that are already using us, or our solution, I should say. Then I can use those to go to other fleets and say, Jim's trucking down the roads using our products. These are the results they're seeing: fuel savings, DPF maintenance drop, just overall driver happiness, things like that. It's really just a conversation. Every single conversation is different. I think it just kind of depends on how you approach the customer. Really, like I said, I don't want to just sell you a thing and run away. I want to sell you a thing and support you through the installation and partner up with you and help you grow your business.
Yeah, solve the problem permanently and get the benefit. Can you just tell us a story of one of your success stories where you've been able to really help someone? Like, what was their situation? How did you help them? And then how did it turn out?
Sure. So we have an owner operator based out of Helena that I'd worked with for years. And he'd go out on the road for 3 weeks at a time. And then he'd come home, park his truck for a week, and he'd plug it in, but was never really happy with the performance of the block heaters, the factory block heaters and such. They do okay. But when it gets really cold, they can't keep up. So talking with Kyle, we just discovered pain points. Like, what can I do to help you during these situations? And the result was a coolant heater. We added a coolant heater to his tractor, and we're able to somewhat give him a peace of mind that when he goes home for that week, that he doesn't have to go and check on his truck every day. He can have a little bit of relaxation, not think about work, and know that, 6 days later when he comes back to his truck, it's already going to be pre-warmed, that he's going to turn the key, it's going to start. He doesn't have to pay somebody to come out and jumpstart his truck for $400, $500, whatever that costs nowadays. So just those little things that he was excited about. And he also uses it when he's out on the road as well. He'll turn our heater on and he'll circulate, turn his fan on and kind of use the circulation of the coolant heat through the sleeper as well, and kind of take advantage of the heat from the HVAC system of the tractor.
So for those of you listening who's thinking to themselves, we're in the middle of summer right now. I got air conditioning issues, not heater problems. Why are we talking about this now? There's two reasons. One, if you are selling parts, you are always working about a quarter ahead of what your customers actually need. So that means that, sadly, summer's going to come to an end, and we want you to get ahead of this, and we want you to start thinking about these products and make sure that orders are put in, inventory is going to come in at the right time, and you're going to be able to support your customers. If you're selling parts, not just at the parts counter, but out on the road, you want to think about this stuff ahead of time and make a plan for this fall to go talk to your customers. And if you're running commercial equipment, you need to be planning this out. If you're going to do some retrofits, if you're going to be making some changes to the specs on what you use, now is the time to have the conversation so we can help you get ready so that when that cold weather hits, you're ready to rock and roll. That way you are prepared. And I think that's really, really important. I love the 5 Ps, Bill. Proper planning prevents poor performance.
Yes, absolutely. And you're right. We do in this business tend to look ahead, right? It is tough to sell heaters during the middle of the summer, without a doubt. And that's kind of the talking point for our sales team. We have a great sales team in North America. So we've got basically 7 regions in the States, and then we have 4 or 5 regions up in Canada. So we've got some great coverage up there. me being in the north, knowing about the cold, it's a little easier for me to go out and sell heaters and talk about the benefits of the heaters. For our territory guys down in Texas and in the Southeast, maybe a little bit tougher. But regardless of what climate you live in, a cold start's a cold start, right? Yeah. Does it make sense to, if you live down in San Diego or LA or Phoenix, it's tough to justify a coolant heater, but your rig's running across the country, right? You're not just based in Phoenix. So just to kind of plan ahead, like I said, the initial cost of it is always a stumbling block. But as we can prove out on paper that, that we actually will save money and that the payoff is very quick. And, it's really tough to forecast maintenance, but you just as well as I do that, costs are going up. Over the road maintenance, for me, in a previous life was tough because you have a piece of equipment that's broke out on the road and you're almost held hostage sometimes. And that's tough because you feel like you just don't have a leg to stand on, right? So if we can help just one little tidbit of reducing maintenance costs, that's certainly one of our goals.
Well, I was going to ask you what's the one thing people should remember, but that is the one thing. So, Bill, thank you so much for being on the show. You've been listening to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin. We've been speaking with Bill Fortney, Western Regional Sales Manager at Webasto. To learn more about Webasto, visit webasto.com. Bill, thank you so much for being on the Heavy Duty Parts Report.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this interview, and I really think that it is important that we all, regardless of the role we play, what part of the industry we work in, what kind of responsibilities we have related to the trucking industry, all the way from the manufacturer right down to the person who's driving the truck and everybody in between, we need to be proactive and start thinking about what's coming, because guess what? Winter is not that far away. And now it's time for That's Not Heavy Duty. In this edition of That's Not Heavy Duty, I want to share a couple clips from a great video, because here's the thing. Not taking the time to listen to what the market says, that's not heavy duty. What do I mean by that? Well, when you are listening to the Heavy Duty Parts Report and I have a guest come on and they talk about their products, you need to think about, okay, what do customers who are already using that product actually say about the product? Or when you're evaluating different service providers in your business, whether that's the Heavy Duty Consulting Corporation or anybody else, you want to listen to what the market has to say. And if you're responsible for driving business, if you're responsible for that business development part of your business, whether you're at the fleet level, whether you're at the parts distribution level or the manufacturing level, if you're in business development, you need to listen to what the market is saying about your products, about your service, and about where you need to go as a company to fulfill and meet their needs. Listening to the market is really important. And it's not that hard. Really, you just have to take some time to talk to people who are in the position that either you are already in or you want to be in. Talk to them about their experience. So we've had Webasto on the podcast now. You've just completed listening to that interview. I want to share with you a video clip that I found. Took me a couple seconds to find this video from Sam's Trucks, where he talks about his opinion of Webasto.
The main thing I wanted to get to in this video is this. You need to put a Webasto on your diesel. Any diesel, get one. Great product. It's plug and play. You don't even have to read the instructions. It's that simple. The main thing is finding a place to mount it underneath the hood, or wherever you're gonna mount it, preferably underneath the hood. Now, I paid $930 for the whole kit brand new, and that was dirt cheap. Now, if you're in the Alberta area, I know International in Airdrie, Alberta carries them for $930, the whole kit. Regular, like $1,400 anywhere else kind of thing. All you have to do is find a place to mount it. I made these little mounts here so it sits flat. You tie it into your heater hose, and what it does is it uses the diesel from your fuel tank to ignite a burner, and then it heats up your coolant, and there's a little pump right back here that circulates all the coolant through your engine. I ran a test the other day, and it was minus 25-ish outside Celsius, and so I had the truck outside all night. It wasn't plugged in, nothing. I went out, started the heater, ran it for 1 hour, and then Went outside and it was already at 170 degrees operating, like Fahrenheit, operating, so pretty much operating temperature, blowing hot air into the cab. Very impressed. And it uses less than a cup of fuel in an entire hour. Now, the other cool thing, they have an exhaust right here, and that gets real hot. So if you just put 2 and 2 together, you run this, point it at your oil pan, and you're heating up your oil too. So you can run a thicker oil, which is generally cheaper. I'm running 040 just because I love 040 and I think it works awesome. But hey, you can do whatever the heck you want. Didn't even have to read the instructions. I just plugged everything in where it said to go because it's all labeled. And then you're done. Like, you have the little controller in the cab, which I just mounted right here. And you can set everything from, like, you can set it to come on at 5 a.m. Monday through Friday, and then some 7 a.m. or whenever the heck you want. There's a bunch of different options, so it automatically comes on. Or you can set it to manual mode so it comes on its own. Amazing product. I love it because the cab is instantly warm. You turn your truck on and it's blowing nice hot air right away, and it makes everything easy on your engine. This is not a sponsored video, even though Webasto, if you want to sponsor me, I will do whatever you want because I think you have an amazing product.
Now, this video was a couple years old, so he mentioned just having a child. That child now is a toddler. Sam, I hope that everything is going well with your family. You're a local Albertan like me. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your personal opinion about Webasto and the products that they sell. I hope that helps you all who are listening today to get a feel for what someone in the market who's used the product thinks about it. Now, in addition to that, I promised at the outset of the interview that we would show you a unique way to add cup holders to your truck if your truck is older and doesn't have cup holders. Sam had a really ingenious way of doing this.
If you ever want to make cup holders, here's an idea for you. This is what I did. And I think they look great and it works great. So, yeah.
I just think it was an ingenious idea and I wanted to share it with you because that also is heavy duty, finding a way no matter how you have to do it. Thank you again for listening to this week's episode. By way of announcements, I wanted to just let you know that I will be traveling to Southern California next week. We're going to do some work with a client. I'll be in the Los Angeles and Ontario area for a few days. So if you want me to stop into your parts and service company, or if you've got a fleet and you'd like to talk to me, I'd love to come see you. And if you're in that area, why don't you reach out to me and let me know where you're at? I'll do my best to come see you. Also, if you haven't already, head over to heavydutypartsreport.com, click the follow button, and sign up to our weekly email. You get 1 email a week so you never miss out on our content. If you like listening on the podcast player of your choice, hit that follow button for free. If it gives you the option, we would really appreciate it if you gave us a 5-star rating and a review. We heard that helps us to expand our reach. And if you watch the video version, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Thanks again for all the support. And as always, I want to encourage you to be heavy duty. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to subscribe to the Heavy Duty Parts Report YouTube channel, and click here to watch another great episode.